Hello again, my friends. So, in the last lesson, we talked to you about how to write CSS code and how to include them in our file by logging into CSS. We made a few very small changes to text color in the last lesson. So, in this lesson, we're going to talk about colors in CSS. Now, typically, when we think about colors, we first think of familiar colors such as yellow and green and blue. But if you consider a web page, just a regular web page, have you noticed how many colors and different shades of those colors are used? Now, when you think of the colors by name, we start to get a little confused over, which is what, because it's kind of difficult to really, name by language how many different shades are used. So in CSS, all the colors are formed by combining three colors. So these main colors are red, green, and blue. You could say that all the other colors are intermediate colors or secondary colors that we obtain by mixing the main color. So to better understand that, I'll open up Chrome and write CSS colors in Google. So here I'll just click on W3 School. And oh, by the way, this site is one of the pages that will usually get support for HTML as well as CSS codes. Now, when you examine the page here, there's 140 colors supported by browsers. So these 140 colors are also available on the page with their names. When we examine the page a little bit closer, you can see that hexadecimal values are written under the names of the colors. All right, so let's talk a little bit about hexadecimal digits. And, well, if you're not necessarily familiar with them, it's easy to get confused, so I'll try to make it as simple as possible. As you may already know, we use the decimal system in our daily life. That is, numbers that start from 0 to 9 in a decimal system. For example, the smallest number is 0, and the largest two-digit number is 99. Now, in the hexadecimal digit, the numbers will start from 0 and go to 9, and they don't progress into double digits like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, etc. But they progress as A, B, C, D, E, and F. So in other words, the maximum number with two digits in hexadecimal digits is displayed as FF. Now, if we're talking about the display of colors in hexadecimal digits, the colors are shown as 6 digits. So have a look at this. Here, the first two digits will show how red the color is. The next two digits show how green the color is. And then the last two digits will show how blue or how much blue is in the color. Make sense? All right, let's look at an example. So when we look at the color blue here, the first four digits are 0. The last two digits are FF. Because our main color is blue, there is no red and no green within it, right? Now let's have a look at aquamarine, which is the color here. So it contains 7 F red, green as FF, and blue as D4. So as we can see, when writing color codes, we put a sharp sign here in the beginning. I think that's enough of the explanation. Well, let's just try to understand by making a few examples in Atom, okay? So I'll open Atom and the simple CSS example that we did in the last lesson. All right, so now let's write the color H1 here with code. So first, let's make it green. And I'll put a pound sign, and I'll write 00FF00. And when we refresh and look at the page, you can see that the title is green. So now let's say that I want to change the paragraph colors. So I want to look at the colors and the codes from the site that we just looked at. Yeah, so when I look here, I like the dark orange color, let's say, and I'll copy the code. So when I paste the color code in Atom, we see that the paragraph colors change when we refresh the page. So yeah, because it can get quite overwhelming and also difficult to know the color codes and names, it makes it a whole lot easier if we can see both the colors and the codes and the names on this site. So now let's talk a little bit about the page that comes up when we click on the color picker section on the right side of the colors on this site. So here we can see the shades of the color that would be printed, and with a hexadecimal notation, there's also the representation of the color with the RGB model. So CSS is also another color representation RGB model. In fact, the part numbers that are different from the hexadecimal notation go from 0 to 255. So when writing CSS, we'll write RGB and open parenthesis, and we'll write red content, comma, green content, comma, and blue content, and finally, we will close the parenthesis. All right, so let's make an example for an RGB model. Write the RGB model value of the color we chose on our page for our header color and see what changes. And now we can see the value of 255 for red, green, blue, and see nothing in the title section because you get white with a mixture of all colors. So, what happens when you enter 0 for red, green, and blue? Yeah, you get black. Okay, guys, we've come to the end of this lesson. But just to recap, in this lesson, we talked about CSS colors. We also learned how to write colors in hexadecimal and RGB. We also talked about using many different colors in detail. So goodbye for now, and I want to see you in the next lesson.